Hello and welcome to Greatest Games Never Played, a Lantern Light Studios production. My name's Alex Fitzsimmons, and I'm joined by my co-host, Reno Del Maro. You got anything for us, Reno?
I'll take ape shit for 1,000, Alex.
Everything's normal about that. Thanks for joining us on our first episode of Greatest Games Never Played. Here, Reno and myself will take a look at important moments in sports history and try to explore what might have been had things gone a little differently. I think we're going to head down a path that a lot of us have walked before. Sports fans all over the world have these conversations in bars and living rooms with their friends and family, stirring up heated debates and great conversations about what could have been with their local teams and our favorite leagues and our players that we love the most. Our goal each week, we're going to dig up the past and debate what we believe would have happened had a pivotal sports moment gone another way. I find these endless possibilities and these what if scenarios to be one of the more compelling aspects of sports talk. We're going to cover the hypothetical rather than breaking current events, which you can get anywhere. That's not to say we won't venture outside the format to discuss some current events, but we don't want that to be our main focus. We want to lean into what makes this podcast different and special and have some great conversations around that. We hope you have as much fun as we do discussing and arguing over these topics, and we hope to hear from you on Twitter, Facebook, or any other social media platforms, or just shout us in the street if you see us and disagree with us. Let us know when you believe we got it wrong. Tell us what you think would have happened. Without further ado, we're going to get our topic today from Taro Sujimoto, our man in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
On October 6th, 1993, the sports world was stunned when the face of the NBA, three-time champion and star of the 1992 Dream Team, Michael Jordan, announced his retirement from basketball. The most famous athlete in the world would switch sports and venture into the world of minor league baseball. Jordan's short career in the minor leagues was heavily scrutinized by the sports media as the world seemed perplexed by his decision. But in his triumphant return in 1995 to the NBA, he would add 3 more titles and cement his legacy as the greatest of all time. But what if Jordan had decided to stick with baseball? How far could he have gone in the MLB? How would the NBA and the Chicago Bulls' fortunes have changed? Where does Jordan rank amongst basketball's greats in his now shortened career? Find out what could have been in Jordan on Deck.
Thanks for the topic there. That's a strong one. What if Jordan had stayed in Major League in baseball instead of going back to the NBA? I mean, we know what happened when Jordan went back to the NBA. It's all the extra rings, it's all the extra accolades. But if he had stuck with baseball, it's an interesting thought there. He went back to basketball when baseball went on strike and there was the danger of replacement players. He did not want to do that, so he went back to basketball. But I guess in this situation, we're looking at it and saying, well, Jordan decided to wait to strike out. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. I mean, the strike happened in mid-August, and Jordan played a full season in Double A at that point. And of course, the infamous "I'm back" happened March 18th of 95. And the strike hadn't ended till after that. The strike ended April 2nd of 95. And it was like one of the longest strikes in MLB history, if not the longest strike in MLB history. So I'm not so sure. I mean, he might have decided he wanted to go back to basketball prior to that. I mean, it's his first love, but if they weren't doing replacement players, my God, I mean, the possibilities. I mean,
I mean, I think for the sake of at least let's keep it in a world we understand. Let's assume that the '94 season in baseball ends in a strike, but '95 they pick up. They missed the first quarter of the season or something like that, right? So I guess we could assume that Jordan plays his whole Double A season in '94 and comes back in '95, still in the minors, right?
yeah. My get. I mean, he played a full Double A season. He had 127 games, I believe, and And then, yeah, if they would have picked it up, if he would have stuck out the strike when they came back in April 2nd, I figure it's status quo. He's going right back to double A. And you would think at that time he'd be in even better baseball shape and have 127 games under him. So I think it would be a great head start for him.
Yeah, and Jordan's a weird one here too because here's a guy who hasn't played baseball since he was a high school senior, and now he's a 31-year-old rookie in Double A. Like the fact that I know we all kind of mock his performance in that first season. Where he went 2-2. Um, who's doing that? Having not played baseball in a dozen years, like that's an amazing feat, and like even though it's him struggling to make it and learning a new sport, like that's an impressive feat for anyone. I think that kind of sets the bar as though the kind of athlete we all know he is anyway. But I think the future in baseball is potentially there.
I mean, it speaks volumes to his mentality, to his, well, first of all, his physical gifts. The guy was a freak athlete. I mean, he was incredible. But the mentality, like you saw it on The Last Dance. I mean, you've seen it in games. You've seen it throughout the history of Michael Jordan in the NBA and golf and everything with this, with, when you see him with all the celebrities. I mean, this guy is a competitor of the highest level. So the fact that he hasn't played baseball since he was 17 years old, you know what I mean? He hadn't played for 14 years and he could just jump in and hit 202 on double A pitching. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, for MLB, teams, they stash their best young pitchers in the double A minor league system before they get brought up. I mean, so this guy is like seeing legit pitching and he's hitting 202 on the year and 127 games. I mean, imagine if he had even more at bats. Imagine,
So when he comes back next year, I guess this is what we're talking about here. What's he doing? You tell me, Reno. What's he doing?
well, I mean, let's take a look real quick. Think about his season that he had, right? So he debuted on April 8th, right, of 94, and he went 0 for 3 in his first game. And I think he went hitless in his first two games, right? But then the guy goes on a 13 game hitting streak, right, after their first road trip.
Yeah, watch out.
And it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it brought his average up to 327 against double A pitching, like 13 games. I mean, right off the bat. And then throughout the season, I mean, he hits his first home run July 30th of that year. It was his 354th at bat. He had 436 at bats altogether.
Okay, with the stats.
Yeah, I'm gonna go stats a little bit here. I don't want to get too
Okay.
listen. I don't want to be Gabe Kapler here and go like two. I don't want to, Moneyball this year. But I mean, 3 home runs, 51 RBIs, 46 runs. The guy had 30 stolen bases, 17 doubles and a triple. I mean, he struck out 114 times, but that's actually not unheard of. I mean, Jeter has literally struck out over 100 times a few years in his career, and he's considered one of the greatest of all time. I mean, the guy had an on base percentage of 289, a slugging percentage of 266, and an OPS of 556. I mean, all numbers that could potentially get better had he played more. I mean, even Terry Francona, who was the skipper at the time, I mean, Terry Francona won World Series, you know what I mean, as a
Wait, so
skipper.
Terry Francona was a skipper for the Birmingham Barons?
Yeah, Terry Francona was the skipper at the time for the
I
Birmingham
did not
Barons.
know that. Did
Yeah.
not know that.
And he had like come out and said that like he believed that if Michael Jordan had 1,000 at bats, he would have made it to the big leagues. I mean, 1,000 at bats. Think about it. He had 436 in one season.
So if we're to trust Terry Francona, you think one more year in the minors, he's getting called up as a 32-year-old, 33-year-old rookie.
You're on to me. You're on to me. Yes, yes. I'm jacked. I think Michael Jordan is just he's the guy is on another level when it comes to competition, when it comes to wanting to be the best at whatever he does. My thought process is he comes back, either there's no strike or the strike ends early or he rides it out, whatever, but he continues to stay with baseball. He never says, I'm back. He says, I'm out there on the diamond. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out
I'm a
and
Birmingham Baron.
I'm barren. I'm going to stick with this. It was my father's dream. It's now becoming my dream. I played basketball. I did that shit. I'm done. I won my championships. I don't need the records. I won titles. You know what I mean? If he,
The man was 7 years consecutive leading the league in scoring before he retired. He walks away after leading the league in scoring 7 years And then you say 2 years later, the man's playing professional baseball.
Look, I don't get it. I wouldn't have. I mean, clearly he has a gift, period. I mean, a physical gift for being an incredible athlete. But I mean, the NBA was his bread and butter. I mean, the guy's, for all intents and purposes, I mean, there's not many people that believe he's not the greatest
Mhm.
basketball player of all time, if not one of the greatest athletes of all time. So no, I mean, I don't, I, he went back to basketball for a reason, clearly, and I wouldn't get him sticking with baseball. But had he, I think that he could have put together a pretty impressive career. And I think he would have had some longevity because
Yeah.
I think in general, baseball players tend to have more longevity. I'm not saying it's not a physical sport, but basketball is one of the most physically demanding sports.
Sure, sure. You lose a step out on the court, everyone sees it right away. But yeah,
Absolutely.
you see, baseball players have longer careers. I agree. So he has a longer chance to make it. But you said you predicted 2 years here. You say 2 years in the minors. The man's in the Major League Baseball, suiting up as a Chicago White Sox.
I'm saying this, it's a combination. It's a combination of I think the dynamic play he's going to put on the field, I think that his learning curve is so much shorter than any other person coming from another sport or like anybody just trying to start a career in baseball that might have not played in a long time. I think because of his work ethic, his mindset, his physical gifts, his abilities. I mean, the guy's 6'6", 240, could run like a gazelle, strong. I mean, I just feel like his learning curve was a lot shorter. I think he would have put out some really good numbers, some impressive enough numbers.
Let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
He weighed 240.
Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing. I mean, he might have been less than that. I mean, I always think of LeBron, and LeBron's probably like 260 and 6'8". Michael was probably like 225, maybe if I'm being legit. I mean, I'm just thinking
It
because of
just
his
sounded
height.
like a lot. Like
Listen,
this guy's a big tight end.
I'm a hair under 6'2", and I'm like 270. So I just tried to think of people who are muscular and in good shape, but taller than me and how that would equivalent to weight. So I might have been off there a little bit, but
All right. Let's bring us back here.
all
So
right.
you in 2 years, you got him in the White Sox. Yeah,
I got him in the major league. Yes,
yeah.
I
You
did.
got. I mean, we're talking. Well, what year is he making it then? So he's 96. He's playing.
He's in 90. Yeah, I actually think so if he's playing in 94, right? He comes in 95. I think he gets pulled up at the end of the double A season. He gets pulled up in September. The White Sox were not a great team that year. They went 60 and 76. They had an abysmal record. They finished third place behind the Indians and Royals in the AL Central.
Mm.
Um, I think he was
Stats
getting
man
pulled up
again.
as yeah, what's that?
I said stats man again.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think he was coming up as a utility player, a backup outfielder. I mean, he would have had a bench role. He maybe could have started over Mike Devereaux in right field. I mean, he was garbage, but not over in left field. Tim Raines played left field for the White Sox, and he's a seven-time All-Star. The guy had 13 seasons in the league, mostly with the Astros. He was a good player. I think he hit like 280 in his career at one point. He had a lot of homers, but he could have potentially started in right field, which he was playing for the Barons, and he could have at least been utility for that year. They weren't going to the playoffs. Perfect time to bring him up, kind of bring respect to the organization, get fans in seats who are upset about them going 68 76 and not making the playoffs. I
So
mean,
you don't
perfect opportunity.
you don't feel he would have been a distraction then? Like if the team's struggling, they bring in the rock star here to come in and sell tickets and put fans in the seats.
Good
I mean,
distraction.
I mean, do you think that though? Like,
Yeah, I think so. Because you know what? I think fans and seats is better than not having fans and seats. And maybe the teammates, you know what I mean? Maybe they could have had an issue with that, but I doubt it. I mean, it's Michael Jordan. I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah,
said
that's
in
true.
his first season with the Barons, these guys loved him. He was immediately like incorporated and welcomed in that locker room. I think the same thing happens. I think he kind of injects maybe a bit of energy in life. Maybe they get a couple extra wins at the end of the season. I'm not saying they're making the playoffs, probably not still, but maybe they get in the 70s with a couple more wins, and there's fans there, and there's a lot of people talking about the White Sox. And it
Yeah.
also brings up the excitement that, hey, maybe this guy makes it next year on a full season. Maybe he's with the team. You know what I mean?
So does he?
I think he does. All right. And I put some numbers out in my head, right?
Oh
I
boy.
looked at some different players, some different positions. I put some numbers out in my head. I didn't go too crazy. All right. I'm not going too crazy. I'm not going to make this guy, he's not Hank Aaron. All right. He's not going to be Jeter. He's not going to like, he's not going to be Mike Trout, but I think he would have had respectable numbers. I think he would have eventually, after starting off maybe a little slow, a little cold, I think he would have gotten used to the major league game, and I think he would have pulled off numbers like this. Okay, here's my future numbers for him had he played for the White Sox in 96. We'll say 96. So he came up in 95 at the end of the season. 96, he's on the roster. He's now on the roster. He's, possibly taking right field from Mike Devereaux or whoever was actually playing right field at the time. But I'm going with 20 stolen bases or more in the season to start. 20 stolen bases, 6'6", probably running like a 4.4. And the guy literally, he made 48 attempts at stealing bases and got caught 18 times. He had a high percentage of stealing bases in the minor leagues. And I think that could have converted for him because of his length alone. I mean, and his speed. I think he definitely would have had 20 or so stolen bases a year. I think he could have dropped his strikeouts to 100 or less per season. I think with time, getting in that cage, seeing major league pitching, getting his body right, getting the mindset, I think this guy could have hit 270 career. 270. All right, that's crazy, right?
That's crazy. That's crazy. See,
That's
because
crazy.
I'm going to disagree with you here.
You
I'm
can.
going to go ahead and just lean right in here. Like,
That's why we're here.
look, Michael Jordan, I agree with you. He's going to eventually crack the major league lineup. He's too good of an athlete. It was obvious in the first season. He was learning in the minors. We saw this. He was learning. He was progressing. I have no doubt that Michael Jordan, the phenomenal athlete he is, would have found a way to make it to the big leagues. And that alone is just an incredible feat. It really is. Like you have no business starting as a 30-year-old rookie to try and make any league.
What's he hitting in your mind?
I think he's a utility player. I think that's what he is. I think he's
Always a utility player.
yeah. I just don't see him like getting over these other guys who are also freak athletes who have also spent their entire lives dedicated to this one sport. And like
Respect that, understand that. I disagree only for one reason though, because I don't think this guy would have played. I'm going off the premise that he's going to play because
okay,
he
okay.
believes himself. And if he's playing, he's hitting 270. I don't think he would have let himself play the game if he wasn't at least putting up some respectable numbers.
I mean,
That's why I
he
gave him
stuck
a
around.
generous 270.
He stuck around the first year, putting up to 202, and
Yeah.
he didn't seem like he was hating it.
No, I mean the 13 game hitting streak always fascinates me because when this guy played when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? He was playing baseball, and I always kind of thought, oh, he sucked at baseball because that's what you were hearing. Because I think the narrative at the time was
It
just
was.
get the basketball, go back to basketball. Come on,
Yep.
man, you're Michael Jordan, go back to basketball. And I get it for good reason, for good measure. But then when you like look at his numbers and you're like, oh man, like if this guy actually would have had some training camp, some off season, really dedicating himself,
Stuck with it, and we all know he would have done that. We
I
all know
think
he would
this
have done
man
that.
would have not stepped on a major league field, on a diamond, without saying, "I'm comfortable enough to know that I could hit major league pitching and I could hit it at a respectable level." Like I said, I'm not this guy's not going to be Trout. He's not going to be Jeter. I think Jeter had like a 320 or 315 average throughout his career. But I think he would have hit like, I mean, if 270, I think he would have been on any team and starting in
Yeah.
the outfield. So
Yeah.
I got that. I got 270. I got 20 to 25 homers because this guy, I know he only blasted three in double A, but apparently like he hit so many moonshots that came close. I think he would have upped his batting power and bat speed. And I think he would have, you just saw guys with that kind of length and that kind of like speed and strength, like it's natural. It comes natural. 20 to 25 homers. Boom. Already there. You're like, wow, 270, 20, 25 homers. This guy's This guy's a great contributor on any team, on any baseball team. I take 270 and 25 homers out of anybody, you know what I mean, on a baseball team.
So you've got him sticking then. He sticks with the White Sox.
He
And,
sticks with the White Sox.
for what it's worth, what I think he's going to come up here. I think he's going to be a utility guy. He's going to be useful. He's got speed. He's, no one doubts his hustle. No one doubts his competitiveness. He's going to be a great locker room guy, all those things. I think I think he's just a utility player. I think he hangs around until he's had enough. And that might be when he's 38. He hangs around the White Sox, just kicks around there. I think that's,
So you
I
have
think
him
that's more.
sticking. You have him sticking with the White Sox as a backup utility player that comes in, maybe plays,
I think that's what he.
6 to 10 starts.
I think that's was his ceiling realistically for any athlete who's going to switch sports with that long of a gap in their learning plan there from high school to 30.
I mean, realistically speaking, yeah, you're right. But you know what? Michael Jordan is
Oh boy.
unrealistic. All right.
So,
The
so
man,
what's Michael doing then? What's going to happen here?
Michael's sticking with the White Sox through 96 and 97. He's going to play right field, right?
Hmm.
But then that contract's going to be up. And then you're going to wonder, does he have the itch for basketball again or does he want to play baseball? I think he's like, you know what? I got this. I'm still going to stick with baseball, but I need to get on a team that's competing. I do. I need to get on a team that's competing. I need to get with some of my now new baseball friends, inner circle, and no place like the New York Yankees to pick him up as a free agent. And
You're a
then,
goddamn monster.
98 season.
You're a
Listen,
goddamn monster.
I know. And listen, I hate the Yankees. All right. Look, I'll try not to let my Philly, 444 love of all things Philly sports bleed into the show too
Keep it
much.
moving, kid.
But uh, Yankees, he's leaving the White Sox as a FA in 98. He's signing one of the most lucrative free agent contracts of the time because he's Michael Jordan. 125 mil for 3 years and he's going to play left field for the Yankees. He's going to take the place of Chad Curtis, who later on in his life got accused of sexual assault and I think put in jail.
I'm sure
And
you'd love to hear that.
yeah, and I think a couple of years back, yeah, crazy. And Ricky Letty, I think that's how you pronounce it, Letty, former Philly. He played for the I think he played for the Phillies for like 3 seasons, but they were like sporadic. It was like two, and then he was gone, and he came back for a year. But I
So,
think
so,
he's going
so
to take that field.
let me stop you here. Let me stop you here
Yeah,
because I have a problem with him leaving Chicago because
because, because of the ownership.
because of the ownership. Like
Oh, you know what?
he played. It was drafted by the Bulls, who were owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, and then when he left the Bulls to go play baseball, he went to the White Sox, who were also owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, who continued to pay him his NBA contract while he was playing baseball.
Well,
Like,
listen.
if you don't have loyalty to this guy, who do you have loyalty to? He runs away from this guy to Steinbrenner.
Yeah, you know why? I'll tell you
Jordan's
why.
a straight scumbag.
Yeah, but listen, I'm not even going to say this is all about the money. He's going to get money. Don't get me wrong. And I think 125 mil back in 98 is a ton of money at that time for a baseball player. I mean, now it's chump change. I mean, 125 goes to like a middle reliever. But I mean, with all the contracts that are going out now, but I think he loves Reinsdorf, but I think there's still some disdain, you know what I mean, with Kraus and with everything going on with Scotty and the coaching there. And I think he's like, you know what? It's not even about the money. I need to win championships. I'm getting older. Look how long it took the Bulls to build a team around him, that was strong enough to start dominating and competing for championships. I mean, he couldn't get over that hurdle of Detroit. I think this time he's like, you know what? Jeter and I are golfing, we're smoking cigars, we're playing cards, you know what I mean? I'm taking him for money anyway. Might as well jump on that Yankees team because I think the Yankees had lost in 97, right? Or no, the Marlins won in 97, but the Yankees won the year before, I believe, in 96. So they're not too far off. I believe that, right? The Yankees won in 96, I think. So they're not too far off. They're like a year removed from winning before they go on that 3-year winning streak. Um, of winning championships. And that's I think really I think Chad Curtis was not a great player. I mean, he hit 250. He wasn't a dynamic outfielder. He wasn't a big name. Ricky Letty was like I said, a backup utility guy. I think Ricky Letty played some of the World Series in 98 because Curtis was hurt or something like that. I think Jordan steps in starting left field. I think they win 3 titles. The Bronx Bombers, oh, they did. I think he wins 3 titles with the Bronx Bombers from 98 to 2. Uh, I
So
mean, that
he's
team,
along for the ride.
he's along for the championships because think about this. That team only lost like 1 game in 3 years in the final in the championship series. That Yankees team, they were unbelievable. They were dominant. I mean, like I said, hate them, but God, got to give them the respect. I mean, they dominated. I think they lost all but 1 game out of 3 in 3 series in 3 years. I think he goes, gets the money, gets 3 titles, and he retires a champion again, and being the only athlete to win 3 back to back to back championships in 2 different sports.
That's a wild take. That's a wild take. I
Like,
cannot see him leaving the White Sox, but that's I mean, if he's gonna do it, I guess.
he had enough loyalty to Chicago, all right? The man could have been a Sixer from what I heard.
Oh boy. All right. All
Well,
right.
that's a topic of
So,
another day,
so,
but
so
the
you're
point
so
is
you're so you're bringing it back to the NBA here now. So Jordan he's out of the NBA entirely.
Mhm.
We know what happens. We know that he comes back. He makes the playoffs that 1 year, and they kind of run around, make a little bit of noise. That's it. And then the next year they come back with Rodman, and they win 3 consecutive championships.
Dominant.
So if Jordan's not there, they're not winning those 3 consecutive championships, right? That's not They're not doing it on the back of Scottie Pippen, and they're probably not even going to go get Rodman if they don't have Jordan.
I agree. I love Scotty, but they couldn't get it done with that team 2 seasons that he was gone. I mean, realistically, I know he came back after 18 months and he played like 20 games before the
For the playoffs, and
playoffs. But
they went on a run, but then the next year they went and added Rodman. So I think that was like them loading up to really make a move. But like I said, if Jordan's not there, what are you building for? Like,
yeah, they're done. They're abysmal. I mean, they might make the playoffs here and there because they still have Scottie Pippen and some other players around them that could
yeah,
shoot,
yeah.
maybe defend. But I mean,
Well,
they're a one and done in the playoffs if they get in.
yeah, so they're not winning 3 consecutive championships. So who's winning these championships then?
Well, let's look at it real quick. So in '96, they beat the Magic in the Eastern Conference
On their
Finals to
way,
get, yeah. So Orlando's getting in now. I mean, and think about this: Orlando lost, the year before to Houston.
Orlando was a powerhouse, man.
Powerhouse,
They were a
Penny
powerhouse team
Hardaway,
that got just swept by the Bulls, which lets
yeah,
you know just how good the Bulls were.
yeah, Penny Hardaway, Horace Grant, and of course
Shaq,
Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, dominated. So now they lost to Houston, and that year they kill. I mean, they dominated the Bulls when Jordan came back in that playoff series, and they went on. They lost to Houston. I mean, who quite honestly had an incredible roster and one of the greatest players to ever play in Hakeem Olajuwon. But now they blow out Orlando in '96. Well, now they're not there. So Orlando has no one really to step in and do that to them, bend them over and do them dirty with no lube. So Orlando gets to the finals against Seattle. And I think the way this plays out is Shaq's dominant. I mean, he's going to get his, but in the end, I think the Supersonics take it. They take it. I think they do. I think shooting from Detlef Schrempf and Gary Payton. Gary Payton has been consistently defender of the year. I think he was that year in '96. He won Defensive Player of the Year. Sean Kemp's physical enough and had enough speed and agility and moves, I think, to like get his against Shaq or any other defender.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and actually agree with you on this one right here.
I think the
I feel
Supersonics
like I
win.
rarely agree with you. The Supersonics would have won. They're one of the best defensive teams of their era. Like
Absolutely.
this team. I mean, they gave the Bulls a run for their money for real when they had all those guys. Like they really did.
They
I,
did. Bulls
I,
came
I
in
just
4-2,
Yeah,
but
I
they
just
did
don't
it.
see a way that any of their team it was gonna stop the Supersonics from winning that year.
Because Jordan was that factor. He was that it factor. He was the difference maker. I mean, if Seattle plays the Bulls without Jordan, it's a wrap. You know what I
Well,
mean?
all right.
But
So,
but
so
but Jordan no, Gary Payton couldn't stop Jordan. I mean, and Gary Payton was great. He slowed him down one game, but eventually, and I think the Sonics beat the Magic. You know, 4-2, maybe it goes game 7, but I think they have too much defense. I think they have good shooting. So there's 96. The Sonics get the title.
All right, so the Sonics got the title, but that year also Jordan won the MVP in the regular season and led the league in scoring. So if just going down the list here, it looks like Hakeem Olajuwon would have won the scoring title with no Jordan in the league.
Was
But
it Akeem or Malone? Because
was
Malone was up there runner up a couple years. I don't
it,
remember. I know he
I'm,
was
I'm, I'm looking right now. It was Hakeem in
okay.
90, in 96,
Because I
95,
know
96.
Malone, I think, was 97 and 98, right?
No, but we'll keep moving. I got it right here.
Okay.
So who wins the MVP that year though?
Probably David Robinson. He won the year before. I think he was putting up good numbers and he was a great two-way player. I think, maybe Akeem wins, but I think David Robinson finished second that year in MVP. So I'm just going off the fact that who was the runner up, who was the next guy in line.
Yeah,
And I
see,
think without Jordan, the next guy is David Robinson. I
I'm gonna
think
go ahead and with my pick here for MVP of the 95-96 season, where Jordan does not play. So Jordan's not there playing this guy in the regular season, is it's Penny Hardaway. He had Shaq go down, carried the team most of the season. Penny Hardaway was that team was a powerhouse in the East with no Chicago there.
so. You're saying without Jordan just putting up the numbers and probably dominating him defensively when they played head to head and
I think
killing Penny's numbers a
I
little
think
bit.
Penny, well, again, with Shaq being down, was a perfect opportunity for him to showcase himself.
It's
And,
possible.
and if Jordan wasn't just taking every title from everyone his entire career, I think Penny slips in here, gets himself an MVP
I like it. It's thinking outside the box. I
on
love Penny
on,
Hardaway.
on his way to losing to the Sonics in the finals. But it's based on the regular season, not the playoffs here.
Very true, very true. But
So
I love Penny Hardaway, and you know what? He had a great start to his career. He had a good 5 or 6 seasons. It's a shame because he kind of slowly fizzled out due to injuries.
yeah,
I still think, the scoring title, either, Malone and Akeem are up there in 96. I think Malone or David Robinson or Akeem could have been up there. I feel like David Robinson having it and then finishing second. And I don't know. I'm just going with the next guy in line that was there. So
okay.
all right, we'll go with that. So then now we're looking at what, 97,
90,
right?
97, which we know the Bulls meet the Jazz for the first time because they're going to meet them again the next year in 97,
Yeah.
98.
And now
The Jazz are a powerhouse. There's no way anyone, when the Jazz were on those 2 years, and even the previous year, they were really, really good.
Well, I might throw a wrench in there for you. I like the Jazz. I got them there. I like the Jazz in 97, but I might have something for 98. But Jazz are playing the Miami Heat because the Bulls beat the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Basically wiped the floor with them.
So,
Um,
so we agree the Jazz roll in
oh,
96.
ram shot,
96,
probably a sweep.
97, the Jazz roll. MVP was Malone in the regular season anyway, even with Jordan there.
Yep, Malone's
And
MVP. Malone's MVP of the entire playoffs.
it's a
He's the
scoring title.
scoring title,
He hits
Finals
it all.
MVP.
So
They're
so
just
we don't disagree. We agree Malone, Stockton, Jazz all year on the way to the finals, and then we're back in the next year with no Jordan now. They're there again, aren't they?
okay, so the Jazz are definitely there without a doubt. Now they're riding high. Malone, again, I think he's up there in scoring. He's either second or third in scoring. He's probably going for another MVP without Jordan. The guy is just dominant. He's dominating, right?
Yeah.
But they run into the Indiana Pacers, all right? Eastern Conference Finals. The Pacers took the Bulls to the limit.
They did.
7 games. Challenged them like no other team outside the Knicks in the previous three-peat run. And the Knicks even went down, hard when as we all know. But the Pacers took them to 7 games. And Reggie Miller was dropping daggers. Think about that starting five too on the Pacers. So you got Stockton and you got Malone on Utah, and you got some good role players around them. But that starting five, I'm not saying Rick Smits is Shaq, but you had Rick Smits, you had Chris Mullen, you had Reggie Miller, you had Mark Jackson, and then you had Dale Davis, right? They were as tough as nails. They were like very reminiscent of the Detroit Pistons teams. They played physical, they played tough. They beat Jordan up when he was there. They beat him up,
They did.
and they could shoot the lights out of the building. I think they take the Jazz down.
Oh, oh,
Tough series.
ugh.
The Bulls think about this. The Bulls went 4-2 from 96 to 98 in the finals, right? I think the Pacers take the Jazz 7 games and take him down with a dagger, a Reggie Miller dagger in the heart of Karl Malone.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree. I'm gonna kick it over to the Jazz in 7. I think that's a great series. I think that they're not gonna bully Karl Malone the way they bullied Michael Jordan,
No, he's a physical
even that wasn't enough to stop Michael. So I think Karl Malone's power. I think Karl Malone's gonna win MVP again. He's gonna repeat his MVP.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Malone's MVP. He's possibly taking the scoring title. He's going to get his. But I think that they beat up on Stockton and beat up on some of the other players. And let's think about this. When you make a team one guy and one dimensional, I mean, unless he's for Michael Jordan, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
No pun intended, I guess. But unless he's Michael Jordan, I just don't see Malone taking it as a one-man gang when he needs to, and I think that 5 and some guys coming off the bench that could shoot, I just think dagger, a dagger 3 to end it, 102, 100 or something. Game 7, Indiana gets theirs, Reggie Miller gets his title, and then, and then that's probably a career for him in a couple of years, you know what I mean? At least he had one.
Okay, Reggie's getting a championship. I guess that's going to change the way he's viewed, his legacy now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I
I
mean,
mean, because I feel like Reggie kind of gets dismissed a little bit, like, and just one of those guys without a ring.
one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, great player, decent, like he was a better than average defender. Yeah, he does not get talked about enough in circles. I mean, he was a great player. He was dynamic. That team was tough, and it's a shame because it was really like they were better than a 1 year wonder. I mean, they were there, but I mean, they kind of fizzled out like quickly.
Mm.
But yeah, he should be up there. Like he's the old school Steph Curry.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I mean?
definitely
But
is,
bigger.
definitely is. And meaner. He was mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll punch a guy in the face, no doubt. No doubt he was throwing a right hook. I
Yeah.
mean,
So we talk about legacies then. I mean,
uh,
in my world here, I got Malone winning 2 championships in a row, wrapping it up with 3 MVPs. Like Malone's legacy in my world, but if there's no Jordan here, Malone becomes. I mean, he's already one of the greats. He's joining the conversation of the greats of all time at this point.
oh, he's easily top 10, probably without a doubt. Easily top 10. I mean, some people probably you could argue that he could be there now. I think a lot
Yeah,
of
I
people
think
have him a little outside.
yeah, a little outside the top 10. I think you drop 2 rings on him and an additional MVP. He's one of the greats,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
an additional scoring title too.
I almost feel like people almost put Pippen over Malone, and I love Scottie Pippen. Incredible player, incredible defender. I mean, the guy was one of the best small forwards to ever play the game. I mean, he could do it all, great two-way player. But I think Malone was a more dynamic scorer.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, he wasn't as great of a defender, but he was still a good defender. He was, still a worthy defender, but he was a more dynamic scorer. I think a lot of people consider Scottie Pippen to be a better player than Malone. I don't.
no, no,
Scottie Pippen still ran, as the co-pilot. You know what I mean? Like Malone was the guy there, and he had Stockton dishing it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
I don't want to say Malone was the guy. Malone's the guy who's gonna get all the credit and stuff like that because he's scoring and he was the big man. He threw the
Yeah,
elbows. He did all the hard, the hard stuff.
he did the hard labor, but he would be the number one. He would be the go-to there.
John
You know what I
Stockton,
mean? Yeah.
Malone's success definitely
Oh, yeah.
depended on Stockton too, just the way Jordan's, he needed Scottie Pippen too.
Absolutely.
And
Agreed.
they're both, Jordan and Pippen are Hall of Famers. Malone and Stockton are Hall of Famers. But I'm saying you drop 2 rings on them. You look at
He's
those
up
2
there.
guys a lot different. You look at those 2 a lot different. And
Oh,
the
absolutely. Absolutely.
Utah Jazz, 2-time NBA champions,
And then now he's a possible three-time or two-time MVP,
3-time
three-time
MVP.
MVP. Yeah, I
Throw another
mean,
scoring title at the guy. Again, his legacy for me, I look at this in a world where Jordan walks away to play baseball. Jordan stifled Malone's greatness. Jordan
yeah, I mean, think about his numbers.
so many players' greatness by just being so great.
Malone's numbers would have went off the charts had Jordan not been there. I mean, not only in, the regular season when because now you're talking about one less great defender, one less great team to play, but really those playoff series, I mean, he would have had huge playoff numbers. I mean, no one would have stopped him. No one, no team would have stopped him. I mean, he would have gotten his.
And,
Um,
and we talk about these legacies too. Then you can look at what's Jordan's legacy.
so we're looking at the pantheon of the top NBA players of all time, huh?
I mean, Jordan right now, as in the world we live in today, we look back and say best of all time. Most people are going to say Jordan. I mean, there's
Uh,
an argument for some of these guys. You have an argument for Kobe and LeBron, and
and
if you
Wilt
will, you want
and
to throw these
Kareem.
names out there. Yeah, there's a lot of these guys, but I think the general consensus is Jordan's the best of all time.
Yes, like knowing what we know now.
But, but
Yeah.
Jordan walks away, plays baseball. He goes and hits for the Yankees and steals a bunch of championships watching Derek Jeter from front row seats that you just gave him.
All right.
Um, like
All right.
what's his standing now among the greats? And
All
he's
right, I'll
got
give
three
you a
rings.
list. I got a list for you. I'll go off of this list
Oh boy.
that I have in my head,
Okay.
and I'll kind of break it down into a little bit of a timeline. Okay, so I'm gonna give Michael the benefit of the doubt. I mean, think about this. I personally believe Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time. That's me. That's my personal belief. I'm not feeding that on anyone. I'm not beating that into anyone's head. I think he's the greatest of all time. And but there's argument for other guys, close seconds. I mean, I would put LeBron up there, number two, Kobe three, Magic. But if we're talking about Jordan, what not the Jordan that we know, but he's playing baseball. He's won his three championships with the Yankees. He's retired. He's playing golf and he's smoking cigars. Top NBA players of all time. I got number one, LeBron James. All right. He becomes the greatest player of all times eventually as he plays. But before he's the number one player of all times, I go to the number two guy to be the greatest player of all time, Kobe. So Kobe at one point is going to become the greatest player of all time. But before Kobe and LeBron really come along, I got Magic Johnson as the number one greatest player of all time for a long time until Kobe takes that mantle from him, and then LeBron eventually takes that from him. So I got LeBron one, Kobe two, Magic three, Wilt the Stilt four.
Well, to still
Uh,
with only two rings, huh?
yeah, but you know what? The guy just dominated. I get it. I mean, I know I hear all the arguments, and I've never seen the man play I've never seen him play other than some old footage here and there that is not full. It's not a full game. But I mean, looking at the numbers, you play who you play. You play who you play. I don't want to hear, hey,
I
he
mean,
played a bunch of 5'4",
no,
dwarfs.
but the problem is when he played a guy like Bill Russell. Bill Russell just kept taking championships from him.
He
He
did, but he
kept
still
taking
put
championships.
numbers up against Russell.
He did, but Bill Russell kept walking out, loaded both his
True.
hands up with rings, and got one he wears as a necklace now. Like
But put Wilt on that team. Put Wilt on Russell's team. Russell had players with him.
he did.
Russell had players. He had a team around him. He had some Hall of Famers around him. I mean, Wilt had nobody. I mean, he won, he had nobody. He won two championships, and he won one in Philly and one out in LA. But I mean, he had nobody around him. If you substitute him for Russell, oh my God, I can't imagine his numbers.
Yeah.
I can't imagine his numbers. Or maybe his numbers actually maybe go down a little bit lower because he's playing more of a team game with the other Hall of Famers around him. But Will still dominated Russell. I mean, they both played great games against each other. I'm sure Russell got the best of him a couple times,
I
and
mean,
Russell got the titles. You're right. But Wilt still put up huge numbers against him. I mean, Wilt is just you look at the numbers, you look at the man, the size. He was a freak. You hear the stories. The man was, what essentially Embiid would be now, but Embiid has even more aspects to his game. Well, we won't get into that though. But I got Wilt four, I got Kareem five, Larry Bird six, Tim Duncan seven.
you're putting Tim Duncan up there. All right, all
Tim
right.
Duncan seven, because I mean now you're talking about Tim Duncan's not competing either against Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He's not competing against Michael Jordan those first couple of years. He's not, he might have a better shot in the West. Who knows? Now, I would say technically with Malone now going on to win three MVPs,
Well,
you know,
that's in my scenario. You didn't give it to him. You gave it to
well,
Reggie.
in your scenario, when Malone
Yeah.
winning two championships,
Let me
three
hear
MVPs,
where you
scoring
rank
titles,
Malone now.
I still have Michael Jordan 8 over Karl Malone. Even though Karl Malone gets those two titles, I would agree with you and say that the argument is there that Karl Malone then should be number 8 or 9 and Michael should be further back. And he could be, because think about this. You're going to have other guys come along. You're going to have Dwayne Wade's, you know what I mean? You're going to have, Paul Pierce's. You're going to have like other players, other dynamic players that put up a ton of numbers, won championships, had incredible careers that are probably now going to surpass Michael Jordan, who in our scenario here only plays 9 seasons,
Mhm.
doesn't win the MVPs, doesn't win the 3 championships, doesn't put up all those points.
He does win 3 championships, but not the
I
addi
mean, he doesn't win the second
yeah.
half of the 3 championships. He doesn't win 6. One is 3, but now he's winning. He only won 3. He didn't win 6. Um, so yeah, excuse me on that. But now you're gonna have guys that are probably gonna jump up over him. But I just still think in the pantheon, he's still in 9 seasons, 3 championships, and the amount of dominance he put up, he's still top 10, and I got him at 8 behind Tim Duncan. But
Okay.
I could argue with you and agree with you that if you put Malone above him now, it makes sense in what we're talking about. But yeah, I still have him 8. But you're talking about 7 guys now in front of him.
Yeah.
You
So
know, and he's kind of like a guy that you're like, oh yeah, man, remember Michael Jordan? Man, imagine if he never stopped playing basketball. Jesus, criminy, this guy could have put some shit up on people. You know what I mean? Dominated.
yeah, no, and that's the world we live in. But
Yeah,
Jordan was only 3. He falls all the way down to the number 8 of all time greatest, player. That's
yeah,
a mighty fall. I, uh I kind of have to agree with you here. I think that those rings, that's the second chapter of his career, and the third chapter when he came back, which he didn't do much, but I think those extra chapters to his career are just kind of build on the legacy of Michael Jordan in basketball. Obviously, if you're tacking 3 baseball championships on him, his legacy as an athlete is even larger. But yeah, I would agree.
yeah. In the overall pantheon, you're like,
In the NBA all-time greatest list pretty significantly by just playing the first 9 seasons, walking away in his prime, and joining the Yankees. It
it's,
hurts me to say that even. Like,
I know. Listen, when I put that on paper, I almost slapped myself. You know what I mean? Like I was like,
all right,
God damn
so
it, Reno. Why would you do that? But everybody went to the damn Yankees. They still do.
all right. So when you think of Michael Jordan now, well, what's the image that comes to your head? Let's give the man his moment. Well, when you think of Jordan, well, what do you think of?
Oh, it harkens me back to my childhood. I think of all the posters my sister and I had on our wall. Look, I told you, I'm Philly through and through. When he played the Sixers, I wanted the man to get shut down and lose. But outside of that, those Sixers teams for all those years were bad. Even with Barkley on, I love Barkley, but they were bad teams. So you couldn't help but focus on Jordan and kind of root for his greatness and be in all of him. So I remember the posters, the Duncan at night on, and would look like Rutgers Park, or it could have been Venice Beach. I don't even know. And of course the infamous dunk from the foul line where he sticks his tongue out and pulls his legs back. The Jordans, I had every single pair. And I don't want to sound like a damn rich little bastard. I wasn't. We weren't rich, but my
You had your
dad,
priorities straight. It was
yeah.
Jordan, then food.
Yeah, yeah. My mom and dad, they love me. I didn't want I begged them for Jordans every year. I had the first 11 pairs of J's. It just reminds me being out on the court, sticking my tongue out, trying to switch from left to right and going up for a layup under the hoop. You know what I mean? Like it brings me back to when I first like really discovered basketball and like Dr. J and Charles and Jordan. I mean, it was when it was the greatest run for me. And it just brings chills to my spine thinking about, man, I remember watching him like some of the kids feel about LeBron today.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
funny because you say that, and in a way, I feel the same way. It was the NBA's golden era, but really, I guess it's all gonna depend when you were a kid. Like, because you're right, the kids today are looking at the Curry and LeBron and going, "What are you talking about, Jordan? This is the golden era." Like,
Yeah.
you're out there reminiscing about some old dude who, they're making documentaries about him now.
Hey, I'm happy that came out though. I know it didn't always paint him in the greatest light, I mean,
Yeah,
especially when he was calling Scotty Burrell a hoe. You know what I mean? But and everybody knows how competitive he was. And I mean, yeah, maybe he wasn't the greatest teammate at times, but those guys played. He took them to another level. He made other guys better. He made them great.
no,
You
he
know what
did.
I mean? And that's the to me, that's the biggest key
He was
to like great players and great teams make other people around them great. And I mean, I loved him. I love the fact that The Last Dance is out. I want kids now to see him. I wish they played back more games in him. I mean, I love LeBron. And don't get me wrong, LeBron is amazing. He's great. But it just, I don't know. There's something about Jordan that just was otherworldly.
Yeah, no, I would agree. For me, you know, I grew up a hockey guy, so the NBA was always secondary to me for my feelings. But I think over time, I've certainly seen enough of his games and appreciated him while he played. But if I think of one moment, I always think of the shot and when he hit the game winner to eliminate the Cavs back in '89.
Over Craig Elo.
And he does a jump with a fist pump and lands, hits him with three more fist pumps. And for me, that's the Jordan. That's the image that's always stuck in my head.
It's epitome of him. It's
Yeah.
epitome. Every Craig Elo with the whole, "Hey, he pushed off." He might have, but you know what? All the great players get get those non-calls.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it is the fist pump and the flu or whatever the hell now,
The flu game, like you said,
what
the jump man
poison, yeah,
logo, the
pizza poisoning, whatever.
the dream team. I mean, the guys. There's a reason he's the best of all time.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I think we can call this one a wrap, Reno.
I agree, man. I think that was a great first episode, from my opinion. I don't know. I'll take it from the audience, but man, I felt good. I liked it. The energy.
Here's what I know. You're going to want to hear from that audience. So let's hit them
Oh,
with some plugs. Let's hit them with your Twitter handle there, Reno.
yeah, absolutely. You can find me both on Twitter and Instagram at the Kid Reno. Kid spelled with two D's. I'm there. You can hit me up, follow me. It'd be great. I'll try to put the social media out there and keep it clean.
All right, all right. I'm doing it for the kids.
Yep.
So my Twitter handle is AlexFitz44. Lantern Light Studios, the podcast studio and video game company that produces us. Their Twitter handle is Light to Adventure, the number 2 Adventure. They can also find them at their website, lanternlightstudios.com. And they're also making 2 other additional podcasts, Game Johns and Screen Johns. Game John's going to be talking about video games and giving you all the current information about what's going on in the industry and in the design side as well. And Screen Johns will be talking about the latest TV shows and movies or just some of their old favorites. And on that note, I think we also want to tell you, if you want to support us, tell your friends, go on there, subscribe, check us out, drop a review, give us 5 stars, take your friends and family's phones, do it on theirs too. All this stuff goes a long way towards growing and making our show better.
Absolutely. We appreciate all the feedback, no matter what. We love the constructive criticism or anything that you guys have to say or bring to the table.
Yeah, I know me and you both aren't known for our social media presences, and that's going to have to change. So we're going to be out there trying to be active, and we're hoping we get some engagement from you out there.
Absolutely.
But I also want to throw some thanks to our producer and our special guest, Man in the Sky, Taro Sujimoto, the voice of Anthony Zoccola. Also want to thank our audio engineer, Maria. Yeah, give her a shout out. Also, we want to thank all the guys at Lantern Light Studios that helped us along the way here to make this first podcast. And on that note, this has been one of the greatest games never played.